Good evening and welcome to the National Sim Racing IRD Racing Gen 4 Cup Series here tonight at the Lady in Black at Darlington. And we got a field of, I believe, 15 cars here today gearing up for qualifying. Currently looking at the number 94 of Nicholas Pressey starting to do his qualifying laps. Here at this asymmetrical oval at Darlington, both ends of the track being a different turn radius. So for an open setup league like National Sim Racing, it's going to create quite a challenge for the setup builders and setup makers to make a car that handles well on both ends of the track. But Nicholas Pressey sets his first lap a 28.735. Currently the first one to set a lap, but you can see how he's getting real close to the wall and then coming back down to the bottom of the corner. That's going to be pretty much the line to run here at Darlington, and it's certainly going to be tough to pass. But with how good these drivers are, we will certainly open ourselves up to a treat here as Nicholas Pressey crosses the line, currently on pole for the time being with a 28.736. Going to the number 28 of Jason Crumley right now, trying to see what time he can set as Tony Kurgel hops to the top of the timing board with a 28.632. Jason Crumley sets a 30.112 on his first lap, trying to get a better time for lap number 2, his flying lap. Well, the good thing is that he's keeping it off the wall. Ooh, maybe a little bit of commentator's curse right there. We saw him nudge the wall a little bit. Maybe it wasn't hard enough to invalidate his lap time. So he'll come across the stripe 30.399, but that lap will be thrown out because he tapped the wall. So a 30.112, good enough for 9th place for Jason Crumley. Mark Sikochi, car number 8, starting his first lap in qualifying, getting really close to the wall. I saw him get a little bit loose in the center of the corner at Circuit City number 8 Chevy. Looking very fast down the Boeing backstretch into turn 3. I tell you what, that is one very stable looking race car, that number 8, as he's going to set a 29.062, good enough for 3rd right now. Let's see if he can improve on it. Remember, pole time is a 28.632. So he's got to make about 3.5 tenths in qualifying trim on this lap. Getting close to the wall, almost touches it, starting to cut back down. This should be a pretty good lap. Let's see if it'll be good enough to take pole time. Not enough. 28.866 for Mark Sikochi, moving him into 3rd with a 28.866. Very good lap time from the 8 car and the whole Mark Sikochi Incorporated team, looking very fast here at Darlington. Looks like nobody else looking to set a lap at the moment. No one else on track with 37 seconds left in qualifying. So it looks like the pole sitter is going to remain the number 13 of Tony Kurgel with a lightning fast 28.632, over a tenth faster than 2nd place. That being Nicholas Pressey with a 28.796. But qualifying wrapping up here, as that will be all she wrote. Tony Kurgel secures the pole here for the Mountain Dew Southern 500 at Darlington. We have an official count of cars. It is 16 cars as we get ready for warm-ups. And a brief word about our sponsor, IRD Carburetors. IRD is the king of carburetors and is an industry leader in racing fuel injection coming out of Florida, and they do all sorts of carburetors for race cars. So from drag racing to circle track racing to road racing, offering great performance for very competitive pricing. IRD really has gained their reputation as the king of carburetors. So if you want to take your real world racing program to the next level, starting with carburetors, go to irdracing.com. IRD, the king of carburetors. Very happy to have them sponsoring National Sim Racing and to make broadcasts like this possible. Currently in warm-ups right now. And yeah, we still got about 4 minutes left of warm-ups as we look at Ray Partridge. So drivers getting their race setups fine-tuned. One last tweak here or there maybe for a race condition. And I'll be right back in just 1 second. It's still in warm-ups right now, just under 3 minutes left. So we're looking at Tony Kurgel making a move on Angel Rodriguez. Tell you what, making passes in warm-up is a pretty good way to gauge how your setup feels in dirty air and in clean air and around other cars. Because when you're passing other cars, you don't have as much space or room for error, so you really have to nail down the setup, especially at a track like Darlington, where it's often said that the track is 1.5 cars wide, and it's unfortunate that nobody has half a car width. Currently looking at the one of Ray Partridge as he's making a run on the 21 of Rick Jarrell down the Boeing backstretch. MSI, which is the 1 and the 8 right now, and I believe the 15 if I'm not mistaken, looking very strong in terms of results here. Very fast race cars, but we will have to see if they have anything for Tony Kurgel or Nicholas Pressey, because they have looked like very fast race cars. And Pressey definitely looking maybe for a little bit of revenge after what happened at Phoenix. Led the vast majority of the laps at Phoenix, only for late race shenanigans to end up with a completely different winner. That being the 5 of Adam DeFore. But less than a minute left in warm-ups right now, as Kurgel and Rick Jarrell practicing pit stops. As we look up Brian Wiggins in the 15 Napa Chevrolet, and then Lucas Crump in the 3 car. With these drivers getting a feel for race conditions here as well. Big hit to the outside wall for Wiggins. Definitely want to be minimizing that here at Darlington. Very common for cars to scrape the outside wall, but oftentimes it is the car who scrapes the outside wall the least. that will end up finishing really well, but warm-ups have finally concluded, and we can move on to your starting lineup. So, starting on pole is number 13 of Tony Kurgel, and on his outside in the number 94 is Nicholas Pressey, rounding out your front row. Starting in third is the number 8 of Mark Sikochi. On his outside is the number 14 of Philip Chavez. Inside of row number 3, last car within the top 5 is the number 1 of Ray Partridge, and on his outside is last week's winner at Phoenix, the number 5 of Adam DeFore. Inside of row number 4 is number 59 of Justin Cope, who came home, I believe, third at Phoenix last week. And on his outside is Chris Chavez Essery, trying to salvage a busted week last week at Phoenix with a pretty strong start. So hopefully this will be a sign of good things to come for that 20 car. Inside of row number 5 is number 69 of James Young. On his outside, rounding out the top 10, is number 21 of Rick Jarrell. First car outside the top 10 is the 26 of Robert Wiggins, and on his outside is the number 28 of Jason Crumley. Inside of row number 7 is the number 3 of Lucas Crump, and on his outside is the number 15 of Brian Wiggins. Rounding out your field in 15th and 16th respectively is number 18 of Angel Rodriguez, and rounding out your field, number 56, Chris Norris. .184 lap tilt here at Darlington with 16 cars. Should hopefully be a very clean race considering tire fall off, field size, and length. But as it stands, if this goes flag to flag, this will be about an hour and a half long race. So we got lots of racing ahead of us. But it's going to be Tony Kurgel leading the field to the green flag. It'll be all about how well of a start he gets over Pressey to get to that lucrative high side. But pace car is in, waiting for the green flag to drop. Green flag is out. Kurgel did not get that great of a start. Here comes Pressey on the outside as Kurgel actually got a black flag. Black flag for the car number 13, our pole sitter. Maybe a jump start for Kurgel, but definitely a very strange start to this race as Kurgel. You can see him diving into pit lane in turn 3. I don't know what caused that as he pulls into pit lane. So less than ideal start for car number 13, and that's an ideal start for Nicholas Pressey, who is now just under a second ahead of Mark Sikochi, currently in second place. Adam DeFore trying to build up a run on Philip Chavez for third. He's gonna try to take it, but he gets into the wall, gets off of it. But that, you really want to minimize that here at Darlington, getting your Darlington stripe, they call it. But Tony Kurgel finally out of pit lane. And let's see where he comes out in relation to Pressey. There's Pressey up at the top of the screen. So Kurgel 1 lap down, and he's going to need a quick caution to get back on the lead lap. And as I say that, Brian Wiggins goes around in the back. So let's get a replay to see what happened to that 15 to bring out the first caution on lap number 3. So looking at the 15 of Brian Wiggins gets really tight on exit, and Lucas Crump nowhere to go right behind him. Just gets into his quarter panel. It actually rips the front end off of Crump, and Crump hard into the inside wall. You can see his hood up on that car. That's a hard lick for car number 3. And I would not be surprised if that left front suspension is completely shattered after making hard contact with that inside wall. And yes, I believe he's pulled it behind the wall. So only 3 laps in, and we already have our first retirement from this race in the form of the number 3, Lucas Crump. So very unfortunate. Brian Wiggins able to get into pit lane. Like his damage was quite minor in comparison to Lucas Crump. And Tony Kurgel, not an ideal start for him, but he couldn't have asked for a caution at a better time. He gets the lucky dog, so he will start from the back of the field. But we saw how fast that car was in qualifying and in practice. So definitely don't count him out just yet. But yeah, this track, very unforgiving. You know, you get tight just a little bit, and you really have to run close to that wall to get all the speed that you can out. And if you just overstep your bounds by just a little bit, even on lap number 4, it can very quickly end both yours and another person's race. Brian Wiggins lucky that it didn't cost him his race, but unfortunately Lucas Crump having to retire early, as pace car lights are out. So we will be going green flag racing next time by. And these single file restarts are very helpful here at Darlington for clean racing. Because, believe it or not, it is pretty hard to set up a pass here at Darlington. You really need to set it up on exit. It's not like other tracks where you can, you know, pull alongside someone through a corner. You really have to set it up down the straight and hope that they back out, because battling at Darlington will destroy your tires. But Pressey going all the way near the wall. Pace car is in, just waiting for Pressey to hit the gas. And green flag is out for the first restart on lap number 6. Coming to lap number 7. And Pressey gets a good jump over the rest of the field. Sikochi about half a second behind. Here comes Adam DeFore closing the gap in on that 8 car. Getting a great run through the center of the corner, but not able to pull alongside the 8 car just yet. Chavez Essery also pulling up to these 2 cars. And DeFore looking for a way around Sikochi. And same thing with Essery. He's caught up to the back end of DeFore. Maybe trying to sneak 3rd place from that 5 car. But all of these cars in this little group right here running very similar lines. DeFore with it seems to be getting very big runs to the center of the corner. As whoa! I don't think DeFore was expecting Sikochi to slow up that much. And here comes Essery to the inside of DeFore. Side by side out of turn number 4. A little bit of contact, but nothing crazy as Essery backs out of it. It's a wise move from Essery to not try and send it back to the inside of that 5 car, but only slow both of those drivers up. As he's fallen a couple tenths behind DeFore, trying to regather his momentum. DeFore trying to close the gap between him and Sikochi. For 5th place, we have Chavez hounding the back end of Justin Cope in the 59. As Rick Jarrell got into the wall in the back, he's going to lose a couple of positions. almost lost, or is almost about to lose one more to Crumley in the 28. As Crumley looks to the inside, gonna try to make the move stick in 3 and 4. Looks like Jarrell going to allow it to happen. Tony Kurgel on the move. Thought about trying to get to the inside of Robert Wiggins, backed out of it before turn 1. That's Ray Partridge right behind him as well. So Kurgel trying to work his way through the field without burning his stuff too much. And this is a perfect example of what I meant by setting up a pass on the exit of the corners. Just trying to get that much more of a run out of the corner so you can clear yourself by turn 3. Kurgel able to do so on Wiggins and hopefully put some distance between him and Partridge. Further up in the front for second, DeFore has really caught the back end of Sikochi, but he kills his momentum that he was gaining on him by slapping the wall just a little bit. This allows Chris Chavez-Essery to really close the gap between him and the 5. So now, once again, it is a 3-car battle for second place, as all of these cars are within about within half a second of each other. Sikochi really committed to staying higher through the corner longer, while DeFore and Essery seem to be going faster by cutting down earlier. But with the exception of a little wall scrape, these drivers have seldom seemed to make a mistake so far, at least these 3 drivers, as we are mostly single file racing. I don't see anyone making any moves right now. Tony Kurgel is actually setting times equal to the race leader, Nicholas Pressey, right now, as he's trying to fly his way through the field. He's got a lot of laps ahead of him to make it happen, because we still got about 169 laps in this race, so more than enough time for Kurgel to work his way up to Pressey. Definitely put himself behind the 8 ball here, but nothing that we haven't seen that 13 car recover from, as we look at Ray Partridge trying to build a run on the 26 of Robert Wiggins. Moving to the inside into turn 1. Wiggins lets him have it, but you see Partridge using a little bit of the apron for a little bit of extra room to make the move stick, as Kurgel starting to make a move on James Young in the 69. Side by side for 7th coming into turn 3. Kurgel on the bottom, gonna try to make the move stick out of 4. He'll get it done. So that's another spot for car number 13. And he is working his way through this field, currently 6 seconds behind the leader. And he's still going to be a little bit behind because battling someone is infinitely slower here at Darlington than running by yourself. So in an ideal scenario, Kurgel would get to second, and then the moment that happens, a caution comes out. But oftentimes here at Darlington, the ideal situation is not what comes to hand. It's a track that produces lots of crazy scenarios, both in the real world and in the sim racing world. As we look back at the battle for second, it's really separated a little bit. Adam DeFore and Chris Chavez-Essery have split apart a little bit, and Sikochi starting to very slowly slide away from DeFore, especially when DeFore scrapes the wall like that. And that's going to add another 10th to that gap, as Tony Kurgel approaching the back end of Philip Chavez, the number 14 car. As whoa, Chavez went a little bit lower than Kurgel was expecting. Kurgel very loose out of 4, but Kurgel able to make the move stick and slide up in front of that number 14 car. So Tony Kurgel from pretty much last in the field already up to 6th, and under actually just over 10 laps. So very impressive stuff from that number 13 car, but he faces an uphill battle with all the cars in front of him starting to run faster and faster lap times. But now everyone really starting to spread out as we have 15 cars on a 1.33 mile track, as Chris Norris is the first car to go one lap down. And this is what I meant by Tony Kurgel having a caution come out at pretty much the perfect time after he got that black flag, because the slower cars are definitely going to get lapped on these longer runs, and it's going to be very hard to get a lucky dog when you are not the first car one lap down. As Chris Norris doing his best to stay out of trouble. DeFore starting to close back in on Mark Sikochi for second place. Gap close to about 0.2 of a second here. But Sikochi is getting some great drives out of the corner. DeFore's really making it up in the center, but Sikochi's either pulling even or pulling away from DeFore on exit. Right now, both of these drivers are getting essentially gapped by Nicholas Pressey in the 94. The gap between first and second right now, 2.5 seconds. Further in the back, we have a little bit of a battle forming for 10th place. Robert Wiggins, Rick Jarrell, and Jason Crumley all looking pretty racy for the last spot in the top 10. Jarrell gets a little bit tight on exit. Here comes Crumley in the 28 to the inside. Angel Rodriguez in the back waiting for something to happen right in front of him. As we saw Wiggins scrape the wall, that's going to bring him closer to these guys battling. Crumley going to try to get the move done on the inside out of 4, but Jarrell staying on his outside. Crumley can't come up. Whoa, a little bit of contact between the 28 and 21. Rick Jarrell backs out of it, and he's going to lose 2 spots to Crumley and Rodriguez. But that was a lot better than keeping in and potentially causing a caution. Sure, Crumley didn't mean to slide up, but it's just so easy to overdrive corners here at Darlington. Looking back at Tony Kurgel, he has moved up into the he has moved up right behind Justin Cope, and hungry to make a move on that 59 car. But currently holding station behind Cope at the moment. Right now, Jason Crumley has caught the back of Robert Wiggins for 10th place. Crumley almost drove it in way too hard. Had to really get out of it to not drive into the quarter panel of Wiggins. Rodriguez thought about making a move on the 28, but he backed out of it just in case. So Crumley looking very fast as Wiggins gets in the wall a little bit. That's going to hurt his momentum. And now Crumley looking to the inside of the 26. So move Jason Crumley into the 10th position. So a top 10 drive so far for Jason Crumley as Robert Wiggins continues to slide back. Rick Jarrell has caught up to the back end of Angel Rodriguez for 12th place, but not looking to make a move just yet. Maybe trying to feel out how his tire grip is compared to Rodriguez and Wiggins, but Wiggins seems like he's having a tough time wrangling this car around Darlington. As Justin Cope has really caught up to the back end of Chris Chavez Essery. I don't know if Essery got loose or hit the wall or something, but Cope is a lot closer to Chris Chavez Essery than he was last lap. and also bringing Tony Kurgel with him. They're going to have a heck of a run down the straightaway. Does Cope make a move into 3? He's going to try to make it happen. On the bottom goes Justin Cope. He's clear of that 20 car. Kurgel going to try to follow. Cope on the inside. He's there on the inside. So Kurgel going to try to outbrake him into 1. Not going to work. Kurgel gets loose, has to back out of it. And he's going to lose a lot of time to that 59 car, which he was chasing. Because now he has to get around... he has to make a second attempt to get around Chavez Essery. As maybe Essery has burnt up his tires and is running pretty tight. That's what it looks like, because the car doesn't look like it's getting loose. It looks like he's having a hard time getting front grip in that car. As front grip is king here at Darlington. A little bit of contact between Essery and Kurgel. Kurgel going to try to get the move done once again into turn 3. Both cars sliding up towards the wall, but no contact made just yet. And Kurgel finally going to be able to sneak around Essery. But you can see just how much time Kurgel lost to Cope. He was just on the back bumper of that 59 car, but having to battle the 20 car for a couple laps already brought him to about 8 tenths behind that 59 car. But right now, the gap between the top 3 is about 2 seconds apiece. Last lap for Nicholas Pressey was a 30.1. Last lap for Mark Sikochi in the 8 was a 30.3. So it seems like Pressey really holding station with, it seems like his comfort zone is about 2 seconds between pushing and saving. But all the cars not really near each other right now, just taking off laps. Kurgel trying to hunt down Justin Cope. You know, let's get a roll bar shot of Kurgel to see what type of line that he's running from his perspective. So coming into turn 3, entering high, you can see how much Justin Cope in front of him is sliding up. And Cope is sliding up and then cutting back down. So let's see how Kurgel attacks turn 1. Oh, you saw that he was getting a little bit tight, had to get out of the gas to avoid hitting the wall. Even getting out of the gas just a little bit, still losing precious time. But it seems like that 13 car is very stable. If you look at his if you look at Kurgel's hands, minimal counter steering, just a little bit to correct some looseness on exit. So this might be a car that is might be a setup that is getting more loose than it is tight, because Kurgel's really not having to turn that car all that much. And the only time he's really having to get out of it is trying to get out of the gas when he's sliding towards the wall. So Kurgel has a very stable race car under him, and at Darlington, being stable is very good on having speed, as long as it isn't so stable that you're leaning into being tight. But Justin Cope has caught Adam DeFore for the 3rd position. DeFore got really loose on exit, went to the bottom of the track, and he's just gonna let Cope and Kurgel by. And I think he might have burnt his tires a little bit trying to catch Mark Sikochi. And yes, here at Darlington, tires are also a very big factor, because you're running the wall so much. That's you have to turn the car a lot more. So despite the high side being the place where you definitely want to be to run a fast lap, it's going to eat your tires more. And with how tight some of the with how tight some of these corners are, it's very tough to save tires here. One of the hardest tracks, I'd say. Darlington and Dover, two of the hardest tracks to save tires at, and two of the tracks where tire saving is absolutely critical. I would say Darlington, Bristol, and Dover, very hard tracks to save tires at, as Justin Cope approaching the lap car of Chris Norris. Norris going to go to the bottom of the track very courteously to let Cope by and Kurgel. In 7th right now is Philip Chavez, who's caught the back end of Chris Chavez Essery. So yeah, that 20 car really sliding back. Might have burnt up his stuff trying to catch Adam DeFore. And this is also bringing Ray Partridge into the mix as well. He's about 4/10 behind these two cars. So if anything goes sideways, Partridge will be able to pounce. As back for the battle for 3rd, Justin Cope got slowed up a lot by Robert Wiggins. As I thought that Kurgel was making a pass based on my timing board, but it was just Wiggins holding up Cope and Kurgel a little bit. So we saw the onboard for Kurgel. I want to see what it looks like on Philip Chavez, because this is an open setup series, so cars might be driving differently. You can see Philip Chavez putting a lot more wheel into it compared to Kurgel. So this is definitely a tighter car on car number 14, as they're approaching the 56 of Norris. Got around him with minimal issues. See just how much time Chavez gets on entry and in the center compared to Chris Chavez Essery. See the Essery really throwing it in 2-1. Chavez just backing it in there and then gaining some time on that 20 car when he doesn't get tight. But it seems like compared to the 13, this 14 car is a lot tighter than the 13. He's having to put more wheel into it. And let's look at Chris Chavez Essery. So yeah, he's really letting out of it a lot through the center, and then getting back on and actually getting loose. You see a little bit of counter steer on exit for the 20 car. But I think that how much he's lifting in the corners, because that car's really getting tight in the center as Philip Chavez peeking to the inside and gonna make the move stick into turn 1, and now Ray Partridge joining in on the fun here. But not able to get around the 20 like Philip Chavez did. As the lights are on here at Darlington, Chavez Essery running high, Partridge running low, not able to get to his inside just yet. As we do have cars in pit lane, Wiggins, Young, and Norris all in the back of the field, but all going into pit lane. And something that's been quietly brewing, Mark Sikochi has really cut down the gap between him and Nicholas Pressey. Of course, Pressey right now stuck behind Angel Rodriguez. Whoa, Rodriguez in the wall, Pressey running the bottom. I thought Pressey was actually going to pit for a second with how low he was going. But now Sikochi all over the back end of Nicholas Pressey. So maybe Pressey has used up his stuff compared to Sikochi, and Sikochi has a long run car in the making. Let's get an onboard shot of Sikochi to see where he's gaining and losing time to Pressey. So coming across the stripe into turn 1, around about equal lines. Ooh, Pressey on the wall just a little bit. Wow, just look how much ground Sikochi makes up in the center just by being able to throttle up and get that car to turn just a little bit. Easily gained half a car length just in one corner. And you can see Pressey really fighting that car up top. We might see a move for the race lead here. To the outside goes Mark Sikochi as Pressey dives into pit lane. So Pressey saw the writing on the wall, going to jump in to try and get the lead back. Now, if I was Mark Sikochi, I would pit right now to minimize any lost time. Because keep in mind, his best lap was a 29.481, and he's currently running 30.747s. So Sikochi really needs to pit ASAP. It looks like that's not going to be the case. So he's going to continue running it, maybe trying to go for 2 stops here. Because this is actually great for Nicholas Pressey that his biggest competitor in Sikochi did not pit just yet. Well, biggest competitor yet, Tony Kurgel is still on track. As Kurgel going to jump into pit lane. So Kurgel going to try and make up some more ground on Justin Cope. And I mean, I don't know. This is going to be tough to see for Sikochi and Cope because they're staying out. They're actively losing about a second and 3/10 each lap just by being on older tires. But maybe this will reward them by being able to pit only one more time after this. If this goes green to the end, Chris Chavez Essery just at the fastest lap of the race, a 29.338 on his second lap out of pit lane. So that 20 car on fresh tires is absolutely flying at the moment. As him and Philip Chavez are approaching Jason Crumley in the 28. See Crumley getting the wall a little bit. So Essery and Chavez 7th and 8th right now, and I'm sure that 20 car really wants to get around Philip Chavez. But only 4 cars have not pitted yet by lap 58. Mark Sikochi, Justin Cope, Ray Partridge, and Jason Crumley. I'm thinking that they're trying to make it to lap 60 or 61 in order to cut out a pit stop, perhaps, if this goes green to the end. As Ray Partridge dives into pit lane. It's now only 3 cars who have not pitted yet. But with a race distance of 184 laps, Seems like breaking it into thirds is going to be the strategy here. So now that we're at lap 60, I would not be surprised to see Sikochi or Cope jump into pit lane. As yeah, Cope immediately dives into pit lane on lap number 60, leaving the last two cars to pit as Mark Sikochi and Jason Crumley, as Sikochi dives into pit lane. So that is going to relinquish the lead. Yeah, that's going to relinquish the lead to, I believe, Jason Crumley, who is really trying to stretch this out. Assuming he doesn't pit right here, he would be the leader. As he has Sikochi currently in pit lane, and Crumley not showing any signs of pitting just yet. So he's going to cross the stripe, and now Jason Crumley firmly in the lead. Well, for now, until he decides to pit. So Crumley going to try to get a point for lap lead. Let's see if he dives into pit lane this time by. Nope, he really wants to make sure he gets that lap lead bonus. As I don't know if that is Crumley's first laps led this season or not. But either way, he is really stretching this out. Only car not to pit yet. 62 lap old tires on this number 28 Haviland Ford. And he's going to be, he's going to continue pushing that car all sorts of tight. You saw him really scrape the wall in the corner just from how tight he got. But for comparison, second place is Nicholas Pressey, and he's currently running about 1.6 seconds faster per lap than Jason Crumley, as Crumley decides to dive down pit lane, which will undoubtedly give control of this race to Nicholas Pressey in the number 94 car. Yep, he just got past Crumley, so Pressey back in the lead. Unfortunately, he's not going to lead every lap of the race. Mark Sikochi comes out of pit lane in 5th. But it is important to note that of the cars in front of him, he's on about 8-9 lap fresher tires, which at a tire shredder like Darlington does mean a lot here. But the amount of time, but to put into perspective how long Mark Sikochi stayed out and how much time that he lost by staying out compared to Pressey, he's currently 10 seconds behind Nicholas Pressey at the moment, just by staying out 8 extra laps. And Chavez not going to give Sikochi an easy time. Sikochi going to peek to the outside. Chavez going to keep his car low. So Sikochi moves up into the 4th spot. And that is the lapped car of James Young in front of him. And something that I didn't mention was that Nicholas Pressey, about 12 laps ago, set the fastest lap of, or actually about 9 laps ago, set the fastest lap of the race thus far, a 29.102. So, as the track temp is cooling with the sun getting low here, these cars are getting faster and faster. But Mark Sikochi trying to get around the 69 of James Young. Oh, contact between the 69 and 8. Both cars keeping it straight. I don't think Sikochi's going to be too happy about that. Just wants to get around James Young, and James Young finally lets him go. But he wants to be making up time to that number 94 and not being stuck behind lap cars. And he's got about 1.3 seconds to make up to Chris Chavez Essery if he wants to gain a spot to get back into third. But Tony Kurgel has completed his drive back up to the front. He's not in the lead yet, with a 5-second gap between him and Pressey. Let's see what the time is as he crosses the stripe. Kurgel is about a 10th faster last time by, so I can't say for certain if this pace will keep up from that number 13, but he is certainly looking very fast. As let's see what time he sets this time by. A 7:07. And so 2/10 faster that time than Nicholas Pressey. But the question is, how hard is Nicholas Pressey pushing compared to Tony Kurgel? Because here at Darlington, how much you save is going to be how long you can go while going fast. And trying to strike a balance between speed and tire longevity is going to be crucial for overall pace. But right now, it seems like Pressey has that balance down, as the only car faster than him at the moment is the number 8 of Mark Sikochi, who's on 7-lap fresher tires. See Pressey 9.66 last time by. Kurgel crossing the stripe 8.38. So Kurgel set a time about 1/10 faster. So Kurgel is really hauling. He's on 2-lap fresher tires than Pressey, but he also doesn't have to worry about any cars in his way, as Pressey is closing in on 3 or 4 lap cars right in front of him. This is DeFore, Rodriguez, and I believe Chris Norris. So DeFore getting around Rodriguez, Pressey trying to find a way around Rodriguez. Oh, things got really tight on the exit there. He's able to get around the 18 without much trouble. Now both DeFore and Pressey have to manage Chris Norris in turn 3. Pretty well done, I would say, considering the circumstances. But Mark Sikochi is really tearing into Chris Chavez Essery, as he's pulled the gap from just over a second to 1/10 between the 20 and the 8 car. So Mark Sikochi trying to get himself a podium position here, or at least get himself in position to finish in the podium. He's going to try to build up a run down the front stretch. Not enough of a run built just yet. But if he keeps trying at it, eventually I believe Essery might blink, especially with those older tires that he has. But Sikochi not able to set anything up just yet. You can see how much ground he's gaining in the corners. Now he's going to pull it down low on exit. Still nothing. You see, Sikochi would really like to get around Essery, but can't really get the run that he needs without destroying his tires too much. So I think Sikochi just waiting for Essery to make a mistake, and here he comes to the inside of Essery. gonna have the advantage coming out of 4. S3 probably gonna let Sikochi go into 1, and he will. So Mark Sikochi up into the 3rd position, 12 seconds back of Pressey, and battling that much has only widened that gap. But hopefully Sikochi can put down some clean laps, as he has nothing but clean track in front of him at the moment. Now the gap from 1st to 2nd has closed quite a bit with Kurgel closing in to less than 3 seconds. And of course, lap car is playing a little bit of a factor, but with them spreading out now, perfect situation for Kurgel. As further in the back, we have a battle for 9th place, Crumley and Wiggins. Crumley going to get around Wiggins without too much of a fuss, as Crumley's on 17-lap fresher tires, as he was the last car to pit. And I believe Wiggins was one of the first cars to pit. See Wiggins getting a little bit loose on exit. But going back to the 13 of Tony Kurgel, just right now by himself. Not really any cars to slow him up right now. Pressey has gone around the 5 of DeFore. And oh, Pressey gets in the wall a little bit. That's going to hurt his momentum. And that's going to bring Kurgel just a little bit closer, especially when DeFore looking to his inside, trying to get his lap back. So DeFore racing Pressey to unlap himself, but Pressey on the high side, the preferred side, going to get a run. But Tony Kurgel is closing in here on Nicholas Pressey. Gap gone from about 5 seconds to just under 2 here. So Kurgel is very hungry. Especially with how stable that car is. You don't really see him getting very loose or very tight. The setup builder for that car definitely found the secret to speed here, and they chose a very good driver to extract that speed in Tony Kurgel. As we'll have to see the time difference last lap, but I'm pretty sure Kurgel just cut about 2/10 into that lead of Pressey's. I was almost there. 30.35 for Pressey, 30.25 for Kurgel, so exactly a 10th. But Pressey has to be looking at his relative quite a lot, because that 13 is getting bigger and bigger in his rearview mirror. But one car faster than both of them right now. Mark Sikochi in 3rd. Now he's 9 seconds behind the leader, but he's on 7-lap fresher tires than these two, and running about 2 to 3/10 faster per lap. So he is starting to close in. He's 7.6 seconds behind Kurgel. He's got a long way to make up, but we also have a lot of time left in this race here. With 98 laps to go. A couple laps ago, we passed the 100 laps to go mark. And all the cars very spread out right now. Gap between Kurgel and Pressey closing to about 1.6 seconds. Kurgel is really ringing that car through the corners and trying to get every tenth that he can, because he knows that soon Pressey and Kurgel will be pitting in about 20 laps time. And the question will be, how far will they have to stretch it to make it one more time only make one more stop, since this seems to be gearing towards a or I should say, it seems to be gearing towards going green to the end, knock on wood. I would say that Sikochi's in a very favorable position, because he only has to pit one more time for sure. Doesn't have to save any fuel or anything, and is on fresher tires. So if things are playing out to his strategy, we might see him jump up a couple of positions at the perfect time, as he's still lapping faster than the 13 of Kurgel. About 8.3 seconds behind the number 13. And Kurgel seeing the number 5 of Adam DeFore right in front of him. Seems like the pace between Pressey and Kurgel has really leveled off. Both these drivers running around the same lap times. Kurgel very slightly faster than Pressey, but he's not gaining by a tenth per lap like he was previously. Now this might change with Pressey starting to catch fast lap traffic. They got around Adam DeFore, but now they have to deal with Justin Cope in that number 59. But most of these cars not really close to each other. The closest battle on track right now, with 91 laps to go, is actually the last car in the lead lap, Justin Cope, trying to hunt down Ray Partridge in front of him for 6th place, as Partridge trying to navigate around the slow number 15 of Wiggins, as Wiggins gonna dive into pit lane. So Brian Wiggins, first car into pit lane, but he's 2 laps down. But the gap between Partridge and Cope has closed to about 3/10, with Cope very slowly eating in to that gap that Ray Partridge has for 6th place. And that's the last thing that Nicholas Pressey wants to see in front of him, as he's trying to maintain a gap between him and second. Is 2 lap cars battling it out. See Cope getting really loose on exit. But Cope just has a lot of speed compared to Partridge in the center and exit. And I'm sure that Nicholas Pressey is hoping and praying that these guys stay single file. Partridge in the wall just a little bit. Cope goes to the bottom. And here comes Pressey as well. Gonna sacrifice his exit speed a little bit, but that's probably the ideal situation for Pressey. And Partridge got on the wall again as Kurgel was getting past him. Now the gap between first and second, less than 1 second right now. And tell you what, Mark Sikochi also really eating into this. We were just saying that he was about 8.5 seconds behind. That gap has shrunk thanks to lap traffic to 6.8 seconds. So he's still got a ways to go, but he's got he's got something very fortunate in front of him in the form of lap cars, holding up the leaders just a little bit as we see Norris diving into pit lane in that number 56 car. But Kurgel trying to close up the gap on Pressy. I think he's hoping to get a little bit of a tow from Adam DeFore, but it isn't really helping him all that much. And either way, he's gonna need to find a way to get around the 5 car, and scraping the wall a little bit certainly won't help his case. But Mark Sikochi's really hoping that Kurgel does more of that. But the gap maintaining about 1 second as multiple cars diving into pit lane. We see Chris Chavez Essery diving into pit lane. Angel Rodriguez and Ray Partridge also diving into pit lane. As Pressy in pit lane, so give the lead to Kurgel right now. This, I believe, is the first laps that he's led all race. But certainly he's going to be very eager to hop into pit lane ASAP to minimize time lost. Because if he runs an extra lap, that is potentially 1.5 seconds of time that he could be losing. But he's going to stay out here, going to try and stretch it to only require one more stop. I tell you what, Mark Sikochi is loving seeing that, because he can really eat into that gap with his slightly fresher tires. Granted, they're both right now probably as good as Fred Flintstone's tires, but either way, his is slightly fresher, and if he's conserved his stuff well enough, he can be cutting big time into that gap that Kurgel has over him. But Sikochi mired up in traffic a little bit. He gets around his teammate of Ray Partridge. Gap between first and second right now, 5.5 seconds. As Kurgel has pretty much a clean track in front of him, and Sikochi having to deal with lap traffic. So, not very easy for Sikochi. But it looks like he's gotten that out of the way, and now running equal lap times with that number 13 car. But now the question is, this final pit stop is going to be very, very crucial. With how long Kurgel is staying out, can he make the lap time back up in terms of speed, in terms of time lost? Because Pressy is currently lapping 1.5 seconds faster than Kurgel every lap. So every lap that Kurgel is staying out, he is losing 1.5 seconds in terms of in terms of track position, you could say. Of course, when Kurgel comes out, he's going to have fresher tires than Pressy. But that's when race distance comes into effect, because when Kurgel pits, will he have enough time to where the tire difference will catch him up and allow him to get past Pressy by the time the race is over? As you can see, Chris Chavez Essery, just the difference in speed when it comes to grip really showing itself as, Essery gets into the back end of Kurgel a little bit. I don't think Kurgel's too happy about that. But that is definitely a sign for Kurgel to jump into pit lane, as Kurgel scraped the wall just a little bit. So Kurgel gonna dive into pit lane. Sikochi going to stay out a little bit longer. I wonder if he's going to try to make it to about 6. I don't think he's gonna try to do 60 to go here. Because ideally, he would want to pit as soon as he can, as soon as his fuel allows him to. But Sikochi in the lead. He's got Ray Partridge behind him, 1 lap down, or actually 3 laps down. And every car but 2 currently lapped. It is Justin Cope and Adam DeFore 1 lap down. Of course, that will change when Sikochi, Cope, and DeFore come down pit lane. As you see, DeFore just on the edge of the shot, pulling into pit lane, and same with Justin Cope. Cope has driven into pit lane, so it is just Mark Sikochi left on these old tires with that, and Jason Crumley, as Crumley scrapes the wall a little bit. But Crumley is already 1 lap down. So Sikochi, the only car on the lead lap. But of course, that's going to change when Nicholas Pressey gets around him. Coming to 74 laps to go here at Darlington. And you can see just how much faster Pressey is in the corners with those newer tires. And now Sikochi gonna go high, Pressey to the bottom. Ooh, Sikochi in the wall just a smidge, but he isn't gonna lose that much time. Pressey gets around him, and now Sikochi has to be thinking when a good time to come down pit lane is. Because Sikochi crossed the stripe with a 30.818 lap time, and Pressey with a 30.045. That was with passing Sikochi, and now he's really starting to pull away from our leader right here. But Sikochi staying out. When he comes into pit, he's going to be about 11 laps. If he pits this time by, he'll have 11 lap fresher tires, which will mean a lot. As that's Chris Norris with damage. Since not too much is happening right now, we can go on standby to see what happened to Norris. He got loose right in front of Nicholas Pressey, and Pressey nowhere to go. Just gives him a helping hand towards the inside wall, but that's most likely going to be day done for car number 56. But I don't think Pressey is going to be too happy about that, because he'll probably receive a little bit of a fine in terms of bodywork damage for those incidents, as Chris Chavez Esser are going to blast around Jason Crumley for the 4th position. And Crumley on 49 lap old tires, just trying to get it to the next pit stop. And Sikochi is still out on the track, has not pitted just yet. Certainly going to be interesting to see when he does go into pit lane. Because he's on 55 lap old tires here. And maybe he's trying to stretch it to 60 laps to go, so we might have 9 more laps before we see that 8 car come into pit lane. Last time by for Sikochi, 30.627. and Pressey 29.838. For 7th place right now, Justin Cope and Adam DeFore doing battle, as Cope in the 59 trying to keep ahead of DeFore in the 5 car. DeFore with a big run down the backstretch. Will he be able to dive into turn 3? Not yet. So DeFore keeping it ahead, or Cope keeping it ahead of DeFore, as Cope actually has a little bit of right front damage. So maybe he got on the wall a little bit too hard and got a little bit of right front damage from that. But DeFore running the middle. As you see, Cope scrapes the wall a little bit. I think that was with more so the right rear, so he didn't lose that much time. But DeFore definitely looking very fast, as both these cars on equal tires in terms of laps since they last pit. DeFore going to try to make a run on the bottom. He has a big run coming down the front straightaway. Can he get to the quarter panel of Cope? Not yet. DeFore going to elect to stay behind the 59, just wait for a mistake, it seems. But here comes the big run out of 2 to his quarter panel. Goes DeFore. So side by side going into turn 3. Does Cope lift 4 to 4? Yes, he does. Cope going to allow DeFore to sneak past him. Not going to try to battle him too much. Classy move from the 59, but also Mark Sikochi has dove into pit lane on lap number 58, coming to 59 of his stint. That's going to give the lead to Nicholas Pressey. So when Sikochi comes out of pit lane, he's going to have 19 lap fresher tires than Nicholas Pressey and 12 lap fresher tires than Tony Kurgel. So 65 laps to go here. And if I'm Nicholas Pressey, I am going to try to save these tires as much as I can, because pushing only creates a snowball effect of heating him up and running slower laps, which, as we already see, him running slower laps than Kurgel. But you want to keep your tires having a little bit of life in them, just in case, you know, you have an end of race battle for the win and you really need to extract everything that you can out of those tires. And Jason Crumley, last car to pit on this final pit stop, and the caution is out. I don't know who's it for. Oh, it's for Justin Cope. Justin Cope's around, and this is a huge shakeup, and no one is feeling better than Mark Sikochi. He just came out of pit lane, and the caution comes out, so he will essentially leapfrog the drivers who pit earlier than him. So this is perfect for Mark Sikochi. So let's get a replay of what happened to Cope. So looking at Justin Cope passing Wiggins, and Wiggins just turns right a little bit into Cope, and Cope entering very high, hits the wall. I think, and he hits it with some force too, and that gets him loose. Then here comes Wiggins, just into his quarter panel. I don't know what happened between these two drivers to cause that. I don't know if Wiggins didn't expect Cope to come up on him that quickly, and then Cope was not expecting Wiggins to come up the track that much. But either way, our first caution in about 100 laps, and it is a gift for Mark Sikochi in the 8 car, who, as I mentioned, literally just came out of pit lane as this came out. So he's on ostensibly fresh tires. Fresh tires and warm tires too. He's not going to have to worry about cold tires the way that Pressey and Kurgel are. So with 61 laps to go, this race has been turned on its head as Nicholas Pressey, who has been leading most of this race, and Mark Sikochi elects to dive into pit lane. Now this is very interesting. If I was Sikochi, I would stay out. And Sikochi, I believe, got a black flag for unsafe pit entrance. I'm very curious on why the 8 car went down pit lane. Is he going to get new tires? Yeah, they're gonna put new tires on that 8 car. I don't know. I'm not, maybe they have to do an adjustment on the car. But this is very strange. I mean, granted, he's only going to come out. Granted, he's only going to come out around 5th place. But that's a lot of track position to be giving up. So Nicholas Pressey back in the lead. And also, Sikochi's going to have to really fly around this track to get back to the leaders here. As pace car is in. And Nicholas Pressey steps on the gas. A very interesting caution period. We only really had 5 cars line up for the restart. Everyone else was still trying to catch up to the lead pack, as Justin Cope got a black flag. So all sorts of shenanigans as that black flag for Cope gets cleared, but he slams the outside wall. So does Robert Wiggins. Oh, that was a hard hit for that 59. As, oh yeah, there's definite damage on that, or suspension damage on that 59 car. He's going to have a heck of a time getting it around the track. But for the lead, we have a battle. Kurgel and Pressey. Kurgel looking to the inside of Pressey for the lead. Side by side, Kurgel going to muscle his way through. Pressey had to get out of the gas a little bit, and that's going to allow Chris Chavez-Essery to pull up to him. And Chavez-Essery going to get around Pressey. So within one restart, Nicholas Pressey has dropped back to 3rd place, and we can see Mark Sikochi getting around Philip Chavez for the 4th position. But I was certainly right when I said this race got turned on its head, because now we have Tony Kurgel leading. And if Mark Sikochi gets a top 3, I'm certainly going to ask him, why did he come down pit lane again? But Mark Sikochi going to try to make a move on Nicholas Pressey. Going to get the move made in turn 3. Pressey actually didn't put up that much of a fight. And now Sikochi going to try to work on Chris Chavez-Essery. As, oh, contact between the 20 and the 8. 20 actually did a great job keeping it out of the wall despite the contact. But Mark Sikochi moves up into 2nd place. So now it is going to be between, it's going to be not really between anyone right now, but it's going to be if Tony Kurgel can keep the tires on the car, as looks like Essery might have given Sikochi a little bit of a bump entering turn 1 to show his displeasure. But either way, the 8 car is in front of Chavez-Essery. and trying to make a gap. But right now, Sikochi is running 29.723. Kurgel's running about 4/10 faster per lap. Now I'm sure that Kurgel is pushing a lot more, but I think Kurgel's trying to get to a gap to where even if Sikochi starts catching, he won't have enough time, because 4.4 seconds is a lot, especially when Sikochi is scraping the wall. And we don't know how much Sikochi is pushing either in this 8 car. Last time by, Kurgel was about 3/10 faster than the 8. But yeah, I'm definitely going to ask why he came down pit lane again. Maybe as Sikochi gets in the wall a little bit. I'm just very interested in, like, he took tires and went down pit lane. Maybe it was for an in-car adjustment. He wasn't liking how the car was feeling, so maybe they, maybe they put a little bit of wedge in it. But that's really, or change the tire pressures. That's really the only thing I can think of. And speaking of tire pressures, I mean, I think they made an air pressure adjustment to some of the tires of that 13 car, because that car has a lot of grip through the corners. But if you run with lower air pressure, you also burn out the tires more. So definitely going to be interesting to see the fall off for this 13 car. He's just under 5 seconds ahead of Sikochi with 50 laps to go. A very enviable position to be in. But he needs to maintain this gap, as last time by, Sikochi was 3/10 faster. But like I said, we don't know how much Sikochi is pushing in relation to Kurgel and vice versa. But all of these cars were really spread out here. As we're looking at Mark Sikochi. But further in the back, Adam DeFore starting to close in on Nicholas Pressey. And he's about 2/10 of a second behind Pressey with 48 laps to go. And I was expecting Pressey to have a much better final run, but maybe he's saving his stuff and going to try to pick off these guys at the end. But that was very surprising that Pressey kind of just dropped like a rock on that restart. And now DeFore trying to build up a run to get around that 94, but nothing being built just yet. He's slowly approaching the 94. But the gap between first and second right now, 4.5 seconds. And time is running out for Sikochi to reel in that number 13. The question is, when is panic mode for Sikochi? When does he decide to really turn on the pace, especially as Chris Chavez Essery is right behind him as well? But 44 laps to go here at Darlington in a race that got turned on its head by a late caution with Brian Wiggins and Justin Cope. This is second, third, fourth, and fifth. all within about a second of each other. You can see Pressey looking low on Essery, but not able to pull up alongside him just yet. But will this be another case of a race where Pressey leads the vast majority of the laps, only for it to come apart in his hands at the end of it? But let's see the times last time by. Mark Sikochi was about a tenth faster than Tony Kurgel. Gap about 4 seconds even between these two drivers. So if Sikochi keeps this pace up, he might, and this is a very big might, if he keeps this pace up and Tony Kurgel keeps being about a tenth slower, he might have something for Kurgel on the last lap, but this is assuming no mistakes from Sikochi. And gosh, I know this is beating a dead horse, but I am still very confused on why Sikochi pit again. It's just that was a lot of track position to be giving up, especially with single file restarts too. But the gap now sitting around 3.9 seconds for Sikochi and Tony Kurgel. Essery gets in the wall a little bit. This might be the move for Pressey to get around him. Pressey just not close enough yet to get anything done on Chris Chavez. Essery slides up in the center of the corner. Pressey going to look low, but Essery going to have the drive on corner exit. Scrapes the wall just a little bit, but still going to be clear of that 94 car. 39 laps to go here at Darlington for the NSR Mountain Dew Southern 500. As Pressey looking to the inside of Essery, going to try to make the move stick in 3 and 4. It looks like Essery going to let him go. Pressey able to sneak his way ahead of that 20 car, and this is going to bring DeFore into the mix. DeFore going to try to get a run on Essery, not going to be able to make it happen just yet. So DeFore still kind of stuck in 5th place right now. As Tony Kurgel still holding the fort and leading this race, but he's starting to get hounded a little bit by Sikochi. Gap is down to 3.3 seconds between first and second. So has Sikochi started to push that car a little bit now? But another car who has been very fast as this run has been going on is Nicholas Pressey. We were talking about how he kind of slid back from that start, but he is the fastest car on the track right now. Last lap a 30.0 for Nicholas Pressey. And last lap for Tony Kurgel, 30.3. Last lap for Mark Sikochi, 30.4. So Pressey might have decided that now is his time to start pushing if he wants a shot at reclaiming the lead. But Tony Kurgel might have pushed a little bit too much at the beginning of this run, because last time by he was about 4/10 slower than Mark Sikochi, and there are big chunks being bitten into that lead that Tony Kurgel has. And oh my goodness, last time by 7/10 faster. So either Kurgel is really saving, or Sikochi and Pressey have both decided that now is the time to attack. .4 for Kurgel, 30.1 for Sikochi and Pressey. Sikochi and Pressey actually both setting about equal lap times that time. And the gap has shrunk to just about 2 seconds between first and second. You see Essery and DeFore in the background. They're both running faster than Kurgel, but I don't think that they'll catch Kurgel, especially when we saw Essery hit the outside wall a little bit. That's gonna slow him down quite a lot. Yeah, he lost about 2/10 hitting the wall in 3 and 4. Essery having a hard time keeping it out of the wall. I mean, everyone's having a hard time keeping it out of the wall, but Essery seems to be having trouble in turns 3 and 4, running that high line. Oh, but if I was Tony Kurgel, maybe he's really, really saving his stuff. That is the only reason why I think he could be 4/10 slower than the cars behind him, is that he's really trying to save and trying to get the cars behind him to push. Maybe trying to play some mind games in that 13 car, because this is very interesting. Last time by 30.6 for Kurgel, 30.389 for Sikochi, so about 2/10 faster that time by. The gap has shrunk to 1.2 seconds. Remember, it used to be about 5 seconds between first and second. And of course, Sikochi also going to have to worry about that very fast 94 car right behind him, so maybe that initial slowness from Pressey was actually a little bit of tire saving. Let the guys around him burn up their stuff more quickly, and then he will just calmly pick them off at the end. But let's get an onboard shot of Mark Sikochi. Actually, let's do of Nicholas Pressey, since he's gonna be on the back bumper of Sikochi. You can see that white and green car. That is Kurgel up all the way at the front. And Sikochi actually getting a little bit of a gap on these drivers. But there is a lap car between Sikochi and Kurgel. That is Brian Wiggins. But Wiggins is actually running about equal times with Kurgel. So Wiggins going to stay on the high side and let Pressey and Sikochi by. But now nothing is in between Sikochi and Kurgel, and this will be a great view on how much time Sikochi is gaining in the corners on Kurgel. Coming into turn 3. It's actually downshifting in turn 3. I just heard that. And oh my goodness, through the last third of that turn, Sikochi has gained so much ground on Kurgel. The gap is now 0.3 seconds for the lead with 25 laps to go. Kurgel might have used up his stuff too much trying to build a gap between him, Sikochi, and Pressey. And now he is starting to see the effects of it. As all three of these cars within 1 second of the leader, or within 1 second of each other, I should say, as Kurgel is the leader. But Sikochi did not get a good exit out of the corner. Pressey might make a move on Sikochi into 3. Here comes Pressey all the way on the bottom. Gonna try to use that bottom side to his advantage, but that center corner speed that the top side has is not gonna allow Pressey to get by. Sikochi gonna keep on to the spot, and this is exactly what Kurgel wants to see. He wants to see Pressey and Sikochi not working together. He wants to see them. He wants to see them battling and burning each other's stuff up, so he can maintain this gap. But Kurgel really sliding out towards the wall here. You can see that he's trying to push to maintain this gap over Sikochi and Pressey with 22 laps to go. He's fought so hard to get back into the lead after getting a black flag on the first lap of the race. And he's, and I don't think he wants to relinquish the lead anytime soon. But with that being said, Sikochi is really closing in, less than 0.2 of a second between the 8 and the 13. 20 laps to go, or 21 laps to go here at Darlington. All 3 cars under a blanket for the lead, as Kurgel, Sikochi, and Pressey all doing battle for the title of winner of the Mountain Dew Southern 500 here in National Sim Racing. Sikochi looks to the high side, trying to get a big run off the corner. Not going to be able to make it happen. Pressey is getting that big run that Sikochi wanted, but here comes Sikochi to the inside of Kurgel. So, change in the lead as Kurgel really slowed up in the center of the corner, and a little bit of contact between Kurgel and Pressey. Kurgel on the outside while Wiggins almost got into Kurgel. So, Kurgel essentially just got moved from first to third, and there is damage to the right front of that 13 car. Now the question is, how much tire did Nicholas Pressey save in comparison to Mark Sikochi? Sikochi has put himself in a very admirable position here with 19 laps to go, about 0.6 of a second ahead of Pressey, and he has to maintain that for 18 laps across the stripe. So, first laps not under a pit cycle that Sikochi has led all night long. And he has driven through the lead pack to get to where he was after making that last second pit stop call under the last caution. And let's see what the lap times are. Sikochi sitting a 4.63, Pressey a 4.76. So Sikochi just barely faster than Nicholas Pressey at the moment, with 17 laps to go. Pressey needs to close the gap between Sikochi and him if he wants any shot of winning this. And he's got to do it quickly because he has to set up a move to get past Sikochi, because Sikochi is not going to be not going to take it down without a fight. As Sikochi running the high line, Pressey also running the high line, so both these drivers mimicking each other's lines, as I think Pressey might have gotten a better corner than Sikochi that time by going into turn 3. Both these cars extremely stable, as they're on about 45 lap old tires. But Pressey is very slowly losing time to Mark Sikochi. So if there is a time for Pressey to make it up, he's got to do it sometime soon, because he's going to need to both catch that 8 car and get around him within 14 laps. And here at Darlington, that is a tall order to get around get around someone, let alone the leader, with 14 laps to go here, especially with Adam DeFore on much fresher tires hounding both of them. If I was Pressey, I would just let DeFore pass. But Pressey gonna make DeFore run, wait a little bit before passing. I was gonna say run the high side, but then DeFore did not go to the high side. But I don't think Pressey's too happy with DeFore slowing him up, because now the gap has expanded to over a second. But now Sikochi is in a lapped car sandwich. He's got Jason Crumley hitting the wall right in front of him, and he's got Adam DeFore right behind him. So a slower car in front of him and a faster car behind him. Luckily, he gets around Crumley without too much of an issue. So does DeFore. And now Pressey going to have to deal with that 28 of Crumley. But Mark Sikochi going to get passed by Adam DeFore to get one of his laps back. But now that gap between first and second, now that there's no cars in between them, has expanded from what was about half a second to 0.8 of a second. So valuable time lost from that for Nicholas Pressey. So Pressey has to make up 0.8 of a second within 11 laps. And we'll see the laps next time by. Pressey was just barely faster by 5/1000ths of a second. That's not enough if he wants to catch Sikochi. He's going to need Sikochi to make a mistake, or he's going to need to really start pushing here to get to the back end of that 8 car. All Sikochi has to do is essentially keep the tires on it and just keep driving as he has been driving. But last time by, Pressey was a 10th faster. Maybe Pressey gonna really try to start pushing now, or as one may say, he might start really try pressing. But either way, Pressey was 1/10 of a second faster last time by. This is the pace that he needs to have compared to Sikochi. And maybe he was just waiting for the perfect time to break the chains in that number 94 car. Last time by, 0.07 of a second faster for Pressey, as he is starting to eat into that gap that Sikochi has on him. With 8 laps to go, first and second separated by 0.6 of a second. Cars 8 and 94 duking it out for the win. And you can see Pressey was a little bit loose on exit there. That he is really pushing that car to its limits, and it's rewarding him right now. Another 10th gained for Pressey as Sikochi gets in the wall a little bit. This is huge for Pressey. He's cut that gap down to 0.3 of a second now. Now 2/10 of a second with 7 laps to go. Sikochi scrapes the wall a little bit, and that cuts the time that Pressey needs to make up in half. So that mistake that Pressey needed might have just formed itself in front of Sikochi. I think Sikochi going to be really trying to not repeat that, as both of these drivers can smell victory, and Pressey is really, I would imagine that Pressey, after leading all the laps that he did this race, would really want to win this, especially after considering what happened at Phoenix. But last time by, he was about a 10th slower than Sikochi. So maybe Sikochi really trying to push that 8 car right now to its limits. With 5 laps to go here. Let's see the lap times last time, or this time by. 625 for Sikochi, 756 for Pressey. So maybe Pressey was pushing just a little bit too hard and maybe starting to peter out just a little bit. Because with 3 laps to go, that half a second is starting to feel like a mile between these two drivers. 3 laps to go here at Darlington. Mark Sikochi just has to maintain a half a second gap over Nicholas Pressey. But he does have 1 lapped car in front of him, and that is the 14 of Philip Chavez. Coming to 2 laps to go here at Darlington. Starting to fall out of reach for that number 94 car as he loses another 10th to Mark Sikochi. As Tony Kershaw actually dove into pit lane to get tires. So yeah, he really burnt up the tires on that 13 car, trying to push it and gain a big advantage. But now Sikochi having to deal with the lap car of Philip Chavez, and he's going to get around the 14 with minimal fuss. White flag in the air next time by, or this time by, I apologize, for Mark Sikochi, as he has a half a second gap over Nicholas Pressey, coming back from a questionable call in pit lane to going from 5th to 1st. He outlasts Nicholas Kershaw, and he's going to hold, he holds off Tony Kershaw and Nicholas Pressey to take the win in the Mountain Dew Southern 500 here at Darlington. Good win for Mark Sikochi, but I'm sure that Nicholas Pressey would have loved to have that win, considering Phoenix and considering that he was leading this race if the caution between Wiggins and Cope didn't come out. And another disastrous ending for Tony Kershaw. Had an accident at Phoenix, and he's gonna come home 2 laps down after getting a black flag. But with all that said and done, let's get your results on the board here. Winning the race is Mark Sikochi, and then in second by half a second is the 94 of Nicholas Pressey. In third is Chris Chavez Essery, a solid recovery for that number 20 car, a podium position for car 20, and behind him is the 14 of Philip Chavez. And rounding out your top 5 is going to be Adam DeFore. Quiet but good race for driver of that number 5. Jason Crumley, another quiet race for him. We really only talked about him because he was one of the last cars to pit most for the pit cycles. Comes home in 6th. Tony Kershaw has the race fall apart once again, coming home in 7th. Brian Wiggins, 8th place. Andrew Rodriguez, didn't talk about him at all during the race. A very quiet 9th for him. And Robert Wiggins in 10th. First car outside the top 10 is going to be the 1 car of Ray Partridge, then followed by Justin Cope and Chris Norris. Those were the last cars to finish the race, and the first cars to not finish. James Young, Rick Jarrell, and Lucas Crump rounding out your field of 16 cars. Don't go anywhere. We will be going to driver interviews in just a second. Please stand by. Okay, so coming back to interviews, we're gonna get our race winner Mark Sikochi into the booth. Let's drag him in. Coming home with the win is the number 8 of Mark Sikochi. You got a copy?
I got you.
So the first thing I want to ask is on that last caution, I saw you come in a pit lane on with I believe one or two laps to green. And my question isn't really the time you came to pit. You got a caution at the perfect time because you came out of pit lane on essentially fresh tires when everyone else had to pit. So I was really curious on what the strategy was right there to take tires again and lose all that track position because you would have been at the front of the field at least by my calculations.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it would have been close on fuel. We probably would have had to save a little bit more, but because we were saving that whole last run a little bit. We saved a little bit too much. We were a gallon to the good, but we had advantage, a point, whatever it is there under a pace lap. We probably had an extra point, 3.4 or whatever of fuel, which I don't feel good about. There are a couple penalties there on pit road. Pit road was closed, and it was also telling me to let someone by. But everybody saw the pit road was closed, and then they got cleared, and then it's not a good look. So this win's kind of tainted. Um, don't feel great about it. Um, we were the best car long run, without a doubt, but um, yeah, got some mixed emotions there though.
I can understand that. Now, they say a lot about Darlington, especially in these open setup races, that you really have to sacrifice one end of the track for better handling in the other. Do you think that you had just a more balanced setup for both corners? Because I didn't really see a corner where you were having issues with, because we saw like Pressy, he would have issues like out of like four, like with a drive out of four, and you would make up a lot of time catching up to him. So do you think that you really got the setup nailed down in that department?
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty good on a lot of these places where you need a lot of rear grip. We're good on the short tracks. Um, we're pretty good on the road courses. Um, I know we would be okay. I didn't know kind of where we kind of stack up, but I mean, yeah, it was pretty balanced in both corners. At times it get a little free, and then we make an adjustment. It'd be a little tight, but all in all, it was pretty solid. Just um, we lacked a little bit. Like we could kind of hang on the short runs, but long runs, like middle to the end of the run. I mean, we were pretty stout. But getting around some of these guys on older tires, I mean, it's not easy. So guys can really hold you up.
So yeah, with that said and done, do you have any people or sponsors you want to thank before we let you celebrate your victory just a little bit more?
Yeah, you got to thank everybody that's been showing up all season, all of our drivers. Got it was a little messy at the start of the season. We got it cleaned up. Um, uh, we got to thank our new sponsor, IRD Racing Carburetors. Um, yeah, they're funding the broadcast right now. So shout out to him. Um, got to thank my team. There's every now and then, I'll stumble a little bit and kind of be lost, and I'll rely on teammates to uh, kind of get me in a better direction. Um, but yeah, I think that's about it.
Well, that's what a team is for, to help you get pointed in the right direction. That's Mark Sikochi coming home first here in the NSR Mountain Dew Southern 500. We will see you next week when we go to Auto Club.
Yep. Yep. See you there.
All right. And now we will go to second place, Nicholas Pressey, uh, and bring him into the booth. Coming home in second place is Nicholas Pressey, car number 94. You got a copy?
Yes, I do have a copy. How are you doing this evening?
Oh, I can't complain. I just watched a pretty fun race, so I'm happy as a clam right now. But I want to ask you, what was your thoughts on that initial start with the 13 of Kurgel getting a black flag? That was something that I was not expecting.
I was very surprised. I mean, when I saw that he jumped the start, I knew what was gonna happen. Uh, I was planning on kind of just hunkering down and settling in for the run. Uh, Y'all bailed him out though. So we ended up getting to go a little head to head later in the race. To which I'll say that was a lot of fun. Uh, you know, but yeah, he just got off on the wrong foot to start that race.
Yeah, and we saw on the last restart you fell back to I believe third or fourth on the start, but you eventually clawed your way up back to second, and for a second you looked to be a very strong contender for the win. What do you think could have gone differently for you to be in victory lane instead of the number 8?
Um, it's a bit hard to say, I ended up fighting the setup all day, so I can't really say that there are things that there wasn't anything in my control that I could have done better. Um, as for the start of the last run, that was wholly intentional to lose those spots because I needed the fuel to get to the end, and it was really close. I needed to save like 3 laps because I believe I had a shorter rear end ratio than most of the field. Um, which meant that the fuel consumption on my car was a little bit faster. Uh, so saving was harder, and that early drop off was to an attempt to compensate for that, which was successful. Um, you know, Mark drove his heart out today. Uh, Mark, Tony, all of them, and for us to all drive our hearts out and for there to only be like what, 2, 3 cautions. I think that's I think that's great. Uh, this one does sting. I spent all day today making a paint for this race, uh, using the one time Tony Stewart won at Darlington as an inspiration, and I was hoping for some of that magic, and uh, the well dried up for the last runs, right as that second caution came out.
Well, I tell you what, as a painter myself, you really nailed the spec map on that 94 Old Spice car. So before we let you go and ride the good momentum in Auto Club next week, do you have any people or sponsors you want to thank?
Uh, well, I'm not really sponsored by anyone, but I do want to thank you and the good people at FTN for putting this on for us. Uh, I'd like to thank the league for their constant hard work in improving the racing product here. Um, yeah, it's getting really good. I believe next week's the last race before the chase.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's getting really good, and I can't wait to see how the regular season fight between me and Mark pans out.
Well, coming home a very strong second place for Nicholas Pressey, driver of the number 94. We will see you next week at Auto Club.
Thank you very much.
All right. So with all that said and done, uh, Chris Chavez Estery has decided to uh, not do an interview completely within his right to do so. So we can turn the camera to Scenic and we can conclude the broadcast for the NSR Darlington Mountain Dew Southern 500. I'm a little bit frazzled right now. I apologize. But thank you for watching this broadcast. My name is Garrett Hess. You're watching Fireball Talks NASCAR. Big thank you to our sponsor and IRD Racing Carburetors for making this broadcast possible. Big thank you to David at FTN for allowing me to do this. And big thank you to Andrew Schulte and SKS Graphics for their help with the ticker. If you need tickers or ticker help with broadcasts, go to Andrew Schulte and SKS Graphics. They will not disappoint you. Great quality work from those guys over there. But thank you for watching. You're watching FTN. My